Imagine a country where the cost of daily essentials skyrockets and people feel their voices are unheard. This is the reality for many in Iran, where widespread anti-government protests have ignited, posing a significant challenge to the ruling regime. What started as concerns over inflation has exploded into a nationwide movement, with ordinary citizens bravely taking to the streets. These demonstrations have been met with a violent crackdown, leading to reports of numerous casualties in a country grappling with an internet blackout. We'll break down what's happening and why it matters. Think of it like this. Imagine a pressure cooker that's been building up steam for a long time. The heat under the cooker is the ongoing economic problems, like really high prices for food and other necessities. People have been feeling this pressure for a while, just trying to get by. Then a small hiss of steam starts escaping. That's when a few merchants in the markets began to protest about the high costs. But instead of adjusting the heat or letting some steam out gently, the lid of the pressure cooker was slammed shut, and even more heat was added. This is like the government imposing an internet blackout and cracking down violently on those initial protests. What happens when you do that to a pressure cooker? The pressure builds up even more, and the small hiss of steam turns into a violent, widespread explosion. Now that angry steam is everywhere, affecting the entire kitchen, or in this case, the entire country. The protests have spread, becoming much bigger than just economic concerns, and are now challenging the very structure of the government. Everyone is feeling the intense pressure. The current wave of protests in Iran began on December 28th, sparked initially by economic grievances, specifically high inflation. These initial demonstrations emerged from Tehran's bazaars, historically a significant force for change in Iran. However, these protests quickly evolved, spreading to universities and eventually across the country. Today, these demonstrations have impacted over 100 cities across all 31 provinces of Iran. The nature of the protests has also shifted dramatically. They are no longer just about inflation. Protesters are now directly challenging the Iranian regime, with chants like "death to the dictator" signaling a broader anti-government sentiment. The Iranian authorities have responded with a severe crackdown. An internet blackout has been imposed and telephone lines cut off, making it difficult for people to communicate and for information to get out. Despite this, eyewitness accounts from inside Iran describe chaotic scenes. Reports suggest security forces are using military rifles against protesters. Eyewitnesses described a girl being shocked in the neck with an electric device. Medical personnel reported completely chaotic situations in hospitals, with one protester saying she saw bodies piled up on each other in a hospital. A doctor in Neyshabur mentioned among them were children, after authorities used military rifles to kill at least 30 people there. Human rights organizations such as Harana and IHRNGO have been attempting to track the scale of the violence. Reports from Harana estimated that at least 78 protesters had been killed in the past 14 days in connection with the demonstrations. The rights advocacy group focused on Iran said in a news release that at least 116 have died in the protests in total, including 38 security personnel. Another report from the Norway-based Iran Human Rights NGO stated on January 9, 2026, that at least 45 protesters, including 8 children, had been killed. It also reported that hundreds more had been injured and over 2,000 people detained. It's important to note that specific numbers vary across these reports, and CNN has stated they cannot independently verify these figures due to the internet blackout and reporting challenges. Key figures within the Iranian leadership have condemned the protesters. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has publicly described the protesters as a bunch of people bent on destruction and accused the United States of inciting unrest. The head of the Iranian army, Amir Hatami, called for national vigilance and unity to prevent the enemy from achieving its malicious goals. Separately, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a statement warning that the preservation of the country's government is their red line and reserving the right to retaliation. Internationally, the United States, under President Donald Trump, has expressed support for the Iranian people. President Trump reiterated his threat on January 9, 2026, stating, "We're going to hit them very hard if they start killing people," and also said, "We'll start shooting too." US-based research group Institute for the Study of War has been mapping the protests, providing additional insights into the situation. Despite the government's attempts to suppress communication with the internet blackout, some reports suggest this measure has ironically galvanized some residents, creating a sense of unstoppable momentum among certain segments of the population. This situation in Iran holds significant weight for multiple reasons, both within the country and on the global stage. First and foremost, it represents one of the most substantial challenges to the Iranian regime in years. The shift from economic grievances to widespread anti-government protests suggests a deep-seated discontent that could lead to considerable instability or even potentially a change in leadership. For the Iranian people, the human cost is immense. The violent crackdown, with reports of military rifles being used and numerous casualties, including children, highlights a severe human rights crisis. Thousands have been arrested, and the internet blackout has isolated citizens, making it difficult to understand the full scope of what's happening or to communicate freely. This suppression of communication, however, has also been reported to inadvertently fuel a sense of urgency and shared purpose among some protesters. On an international level, these protests could exacerbate already high tensions with Iran. The United States has taken a firm stance, with President Trump issuing direct threats regarding attacking Iran if security forces killed protesters, which could escalate diplomatic friction. Iran is a critical player in the geopolitically sensitive Middle East, and any prolonged instability there could have ripple effects across the region, potentially impacting global energy markets and security. The events also underscore the power of public discontent, even under highly repressive conditions, and demonstrate the complex role of internet blackouts. While intended to curb organization, the blackout has, in some cases, created a more intense, localized momentum among those on the streets. The ongoing situation serves as a stark reminder of the fragile balance between state control and civilian demands for change. Looking ahead, several factors will be crucial to understand how this situation might evolve. The immediate focus will remain on monitoring the scale of casualties and arrests. However, securing this information will be profoundly challenging due to the persistent internet blackout, making verification difficult for independent human rights organizations. We can expect continued statements and potential actions from international bodies and countries, especially from the United States, which has already openly supported the protesters and issued threats to the Iranian regime. The responses of Iran's leadership, including Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and Army Head Amir Hatami, will also be closely watched for any shifts in their stance or strategy. Internally, the protests could follow several paths. They might escalate further, become more widespread, or conversely, be violently suppressed by security forces. It is less clear if the regime will offer any significant concessions, given their current hardline approach. Another key aspect to observe is the long-term impact of the internet blackout. How will citizens adapt, and will alternative communication methods emerge and thrive? The sustainability of the protests in the face of ongoing repression will ultimately determine their legacy. The situation in Iran is a rapidly developing story with profound implications for its people and the broader international community. What began as economic frustration has grown into a powerful challenge to the existing order, met with both resilience from the protesters and a harsh government response. The full extent of the human cost and the eventual outcome remain uncertain, shadowed by an internet blackout. We will continue to follow developments closely and bring you the clearest possible explanation of these complex events. If you found this explanation helpful, please consider subscribing for more insights into global news.